Hi, this is Mr. Guy. I'm going to be going over executive orders and executive agreements. These are presidential actions that do not require the approval of Congress. These have been around since the beginning of the Constitution, and George Washington signed executive orders in his first term. So an executive order is basically a statement that the president signs, and it reinforces or is related to an existing law that's on the books. There are three examples that I want to give of executive orders. The first one is where Bill Clinton signed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and it was basically a military order stating that gays could serve in the military and they just did not have to say that they were gay, and as long as you don't ask, they won't tell, and then you're fine to serve in the military. Second executive order was Ronald Reagan giving amnesty to 1.5 million illegal immigrants in the 1980s. It was based on a current law that was already on the books, and he was updating the law, and hopefully Congress would update the immigration laws to allow the people to stay. And then the third one is federal contractors, or people that worked for the federal government, and federal workers would be getting the minimum wage of $10.10, and this was signed by Obama. So there are a lot of different examples. I think George Bush, over his term, did over 700 executive orders. Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, all of the presidents have done them, and they are totally legal in most cases. The most controversial one now is the illegal immigration one that Obama signed, telling basically children of illegal immigrants and parents of legal citizens that they could stay and how long they could stay. And this was an executive order that was signed, and it's consistent with Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush's executive orders that they signed, but it's now going through the court systems, and the Supreme Court will hear this case. Now there's executive agreements. Executive agreements are also statements signed by the president, and they're with foreign nations. So an executive agreement is not a treaty, but it looks like a treaty. It just doesn't need to be confirmed by 2/3 of the Senate. So they don't not need approval of Congress, and the president can make an agreement with another head of state, another country. Examples possibly could be the Iran nuclear deal. That was not a treaty. It was signed by 6 countries, and the U.S. was one of them, but Obama did put it for the Congress to actually vote on and look at. He didn't have to. An executive agreement does not need any approval, so if it depends on how it is with the climate change agreement, and what also President Obama did was with Cuba, opening relations with them, and if he had any agreements with Cuba, that would be almost like a treaty, except for it's not approved by the Senate. So there are executive orders and executive agreements. Those are presidential actions that are done without approval of Congress. They are constitutional, and it depends on what they do. So I'm just going to say that those orders are constitutional. They're allowed to do it. Now, obviously, the president can't do anything that he wants to. He's not a dictator. And he can't make laws, and he can't spend money. That's something that Congress has to do. So, but in general, the ones that we've been seeing and ones that we've seen from Reagan and from Clinton and Bush and Obama, the executive orders and executive agreements have been legal, and they're a major tool that the president has to get things done without the politics and without the issues that is getting a law passed through Congress.